Making Spelt and Kamut homemade bread. Hardware-wise, I'm using a KitchenAid mixer with a dough hook, the Liquip grain mill by Vitamil model. I'll be using for hardware tablespoon measure, cup measure, a 4-quart Pyrex bowl, a whisk, and in the bowl I already have 2 1/3 cup of water. For the ingredients, I'll be using Spelt and Kamut, hence Spelt and Kamut bread. You can tell that the Kamut is a larger grain, a little lighter colored, and Spelt is a little finer grain. More emulates wheat. I'll be using honey, extra virgin olive oil, low salt, I don't like so much salt, yeast, gar gum, and flax, ground flax. Okay, for this recipe I've put 2 cups of Kamut and 3 cups of Spelt in our grain mill. Kind of noisy. Okay, while that was grinding, the grains were milling, I put in the same cup measure I used before, 1/2 cup of extra virgin olive oil and 1/2 cup of honey. Water for 3 minutes to get it nice and warm. Flour that I just milled the grains from. And I think it yields about 7.5 cups. Alright, so on top of the flour that I milled, I put 1 teaspoon or 1 tablespoon, a little less than a tablespoon of the low salt, 2 tablespoons of yeast, and 1 heaping tablespoon of gar gum. And to that I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of flax, ground flax, which is about 5 of these scoops. I've done it before, so alright. And we're going to mix that up. I want all the gar gum to be in one place, or the salt to be on top of the yeast, because that'll kill the yeast if it gets wet and stuff first. So give that a good mix, and onto the mixer it goes. Add my oil and honey into the water, the hot water. And I use the same tablespoon measure I was using before to mix up the oil. The oil obviously doesn't mix, but the honey and the water, so that the honey dissolves into the hot water. I like to turn on the mixer and get it going on low first, and slowly add the wet ingredients to the mixed dry ingredients. Alright. You can see it's starting to mix in there, and I'll come back to this in a second. But meanwhile, what I like to do while that's mixing is I go get some hot water. What I like to do is go get some water, put it back in the same bowl, and nuke it for 5 minutes till it starts to boil, so that I can use that in the oven with the bread. Alright, it's been mixing for about 2.5 minutes. So I'm going to let it go a little longer. You see how it's pulling from the sides and just kind of twirling in there. I kind of kicked it up a little bit on the speed. Okay, so now that it's formed into a nice dough ball, what I've done is I've sprayed the countertop with a little Pam spray, and I've also sprayed my pan, which is as you can tell, it's a long pan, basically a 2-loaf pan, and I'm going to knead it for a little bit. Okay, I've kneaded the dough just for a little bit, maybe a minute, just till you can see it kind of springs back when I press in it. I mean, it's the indentation's staying there, but it springs a little. I don't know if you can see that in the video. Okay, so I've just shaped the loaf and put it in the pan. I'm going to spray the top of it with a little pan spray so it stays lubricated as it grows. And I'm going to pop it in the oven at 350 for 1 minute. And when the water gets done boiling here, I'm going to put that in there with it too. Timer's gone off. It's preheated for 1 minute. I've got the water in there. I'm going to turn off the oven. And we'll set the timer for 45 minutes for raising. Okay, it's about halfway through the raising process. Is turn the oven back on for just another minute. Let it warm up. Okay, so this is my bread. It's raised for 40 minutes now, but it looks like it's doubled. So I'm going to go ahead and take out the water and just start the oven to 350 for 40 minutes. Okay, the 40 minutes is up. I pulled out the bread, and I always rub a little butter on top to keep it moist. And here's the kids and the Lindas. And Nathaniel can't wait to get a piece of fresh homemade bread. I'm going to take off a hunk and give one to Mom, too.